So now that you have half of the shelf with the bearings inside, we press it in, and this is we're gonna have to be careful. We don't wanna offset it. We wanna be even pushed. So now that we have pressed the shelf in with half of the bearing in, what we do is we put the pin or the ring that goes around it in. So now that we have put the ring on it as a securing point, we can put the other half of the bearing in, and then we can start putting our seals in. Okay folks, so now we have the half of the bearing still there, or one piece of the bearing still there that doesn't match the new bearing, so we gotta extract it, and it's this guy. So we're using our tool to hold it or clamp it down, and then we're gonna press on the middle piece, and this is gonna rest on the wood and it's gonna reject this guy from it. So we're gonna press into it and hopefully it extracts it. So this is where your engineering comes in. So this was right here, all the way touching here, like this. So this is where the bearing sits on. So this is part of the bearing, the old bearing. So we gotta put the new one in. So we pull this one out and push the new one in. So now that we have removed the old piece, we're putting the new one, and we have pressed it into the half of the hub, and then we're gonna guide it. We have pressed it all the way as flush as we could to the hub, and we're gonna use the old piece to keep pushing the new piece in until it touches this side, and then we can extract the old piece out. So we're just gonna use this as a guide. So now what we do, we put the tool to extract the other half that we used to guide the new piece in, and we extract the old piece that we used just to bring the new piece in. So we put our tool or our extractor. And the reason you have to remove this half of this is because they're different. One is flush and this one has a cut for the new bearing. That's why we cannot reuse it, otherwise the bearing would not fit right. So you remove this one and put the new one in. Okay folks, so now we're about the time where we're gonna put our seal in to the hub or the spindle, and this is the outer seal. And what this does, this is gonna seal where the wheel is attached to the the way this sits. So this will be rotating on the spindle. This is where the strut gets attached to, and this is the spinning point. And right between the spindle and this hub, there's a seal that has to go in there, which is this one, and this is the outer seal. And we're gonna put this one in. We are gonna put some grease on the outer side housing, on the outer structure of the seal, and some grease in this area. So we're gonna put it like so, even, and we're gonna push it in with a wood. We're gonna put a wood and tap on it so we push it even. So a wood will be flatter to push it in. So we do that. Okay, folks, as you can see, we have put in the seal is flush as much as we could. And now what we're going to be doing, what we did is we put a piece of wood and we tap on top of it and it distributed the weight or the hit into it. And it's a soft item, so it wouldn't damage the metal, it wouldn't bend it. So then we push it down even. Every tap we did, we look at it and then we keep tapping on the highest point so we can push it down even. So you don't want to push one end and then go back to the other side and push the other side. It has to go evenly. Okay, folks, so we're about that point where we can start putting our other half where the wheel will bolt on. So we put it right here. We have the seal in already, but what we have missing is that there's so little grease in there. So we're gonna put some grease in it, and then we can slide that half into it, and then we're gonna put some grease here, and then put the other half of the bearings into it, and then we're gonna put the seal at the end. So we do that. So we put some grease in there. So we're using mobile synthetic grease for bearing, suspension, and universal joints. Now we have greased up this area where the hub will be on. We're gonna put the hub into it, and then we're gonna start putting the other side and press it into the hub so everything gets attached. So now that we have put the hub in there, we have it all greased up. We put the other half of the bearings and the other sleeve into it, so it compresses both sides and it locks it in. So we put that, and then the seal will be at the end. So right now we're putting the last sleeve of the bearing, which is this one, will be pressed into the hub, and that's what's holding the hub from coming out the other way, other than the CV axle when it's bolted on. But that's gonna create pressure into the bearing, and it's gonna squeeze together against the other. Okay, folks, so we have put the last piece of the bearing, which was this sleeve, which presses against the hub, which doesn't let the hub come out the other side, other than the dry shaft or the CB axle when it's bolted down. So we have this seal and all this put in together. We press that in, we put grease on there before, and now all we have is to put the seal. So we'll put the seal on and the splash guard, and we're ready to put it back in the car. Okay folks, so we have this inner seal right here, and this looks like a bigger, it looks bigger from one end and smaller from the other side. So the smaller side goes downwards, inwards. There's a bearing. So if you try to put it the other way, it's not gonna fit like this. So it has to be, this is how much is gonna go into it. This length, this small piece is all that it goes inside there. So we gotta put grease on this side, and then once we set it, we put a wood on top of it, and then we tap on it so all the seal goes in. So that's how it goes. So we put it on. Okay folks, so we have put in the seal. You make sure that it's all the way down everywhere, so you verify it all the way around, and then it's ready to go. We just gotta put the splash guard on, and we can start putting it back into the car. Brand new bearings, greased up, and brand new seals. Okay folks, so we have the splash guard, and what we're gonna be doing, instead of having this to be in the spindle to compress everything, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna cut right about here and right here, so that way we can press everything together, and then we can just slide it in and attach it to the same points that is bolted down. So we're gonna just cut it off into this opening here, so it's just a slide on instead of being there all the time. So we show you that we cut this splash guard off because in the past it was a one-piece circle, and it was stuck in the middle between the spindle and the hub. So to take or press out the hub in the past, you had to work with the plate in there. So the reason we cut it out is that now in the future, if in case you have to replace the bearing, you don't have to wait or work with that plate in there. All you have to do is, because you cut it out, you're just gonna have to remove the 3 screws that hold it in place, the T30s, and then once you do that, you can just slide it out because we have cut it. And now you can work with this piece. In case you gotta press the bearing out, you can push your tools in here, and that plate is not gonna be in the way. So that's why we cut it off, so we can slide it in or out if in case in the future it needs to be worked on. That's gonna make a job easier in the future because we have one less piece to worry or work with when you wanna put your tools in here and press these guys out. So that's the reason we cut it off. And we made it into a half moon, or we cut a piece out so we can slide it in between. You can just line up the holes now, bolted it down, and put it back on the car. In the future, if you need to remove the splash guard, you don't have to press this guy out because this one is gonna have a way that you can slide it in or out. So we put it back in, and this will be the last piece that we have to put into the hub, or the spindle, so we can put it back into the car. Okay folks, so now we have the new bearing, everything's ready to go in the spindle. So what we do, we put it back in and tighten it down. Okay folks, so you're gonna have to first put it on the drive shaft, guide it in, and then you're gonna have to set it on the ball joint, and then we'll start guiding it into the strut, and then the steering column at the end. That'll be the easiest one. So first is the drive shaft. Don't forget to put these cutter pins in there, because this nut comes loose and this pops out, you're gonna have a bad steering and you're gonna get into accident. So this is very important. Put it in. Now what we have to do is we gotta tighten this CB axle nut and make sure it's tight, and then we'll put the securing nut in the pin through so it doesn't come loose. Once you put the pin through, make sure you split the other side so it won't come out and it stays in there and it keeps everything from spinning. So now what we have left is to put the rotor in and then put the caliper on, bolt it down, and then you want to make sure that everything's tight. Otherwise, if you miss a nut or a bolt, you're gonna have trouble. Well, folks, this was an idea how to replace a front wheel bearing on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel. The wheel bearing for the driver and passenger side is the same one, and the process is about the same. So it's just the left and the right side. And one thing I can say is take your time while you're doing this. We had to split this video in two so we can put more info or more details about how to do this. It takes some time. Do it. Take your time on replacing the bearing. One thing we did is we cut the splash guard, some of it, so we can, on the future, you can get that out of the way and you can work on replacing that bearing easier than having that splash guard in there and you're trying to work with it. So that was one thing that we upgraded. We just cut it. It doesn't affect it, so it's sturdy and it still does its job, but it's gonna be easier to take off in the future. So one thing is that once you're done with this process, make sure everything's bolted down and tighten it, because otherwise you'll have issues in the future. On tools, sometimes you bring out the right tools and they don't work and you have to bring out more tools, so it just depends on the situation. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like this video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here en el canal y Chano Jose.